Then from the wood was heard unseen to coo the ring-dove. Yusuf, 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 you, for thus her sorrow broke her note in twain, and just where broken took up again, Suf, Yusuf, 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 but one note, which still repeating, she made hoarse her throat, till checked, O you, with your idle sighs, block up the road of better enterprise. Sham sorrow all are bad as sham if true. When once the better thing is come to do, beware lest wailing thus you meet his doom, who all too long his darling wept, from whom you draw the very name you hold so dear, and which the world is somewhat tired to hear. When Yusuf from his father's home was torn, the patriarch's heart was utterly forlorn, and like a pipe, with but one stop, his tongue with nothing but the name of Yusuf rung. Then down from heaven's branches flew the bird of heaven, and said, God worthies of that word. Hast thou naught else to do, and else to say? So Jacob's lips were sealed from that day. But one night in a vision far away, his darling in some alien field he saw, binding the sheaf, and what between the awe of God's displeasure and the bitter pass, a passionate affection sighed alas, and stopped, but with the morning sword aflame, that upped his eyes, the sterner angels came. For the forbidden word, not uttered by thy lips, was yet sequestered in that sigh, and the right passion, whose excess was wrong, blinded the aged eyes that wept too long. And after these came others arguing, inquiring and excusing, some one thing, and some another, endless to repeat. But in the main, sloth, folly, or deceit, their souls were to the vulgar figure cast of earthly victual, not of heavenly fast. At last one smaller bird of a rarer kind, of modest plume and unpresumptuous mind, whispered, O Tajidar, we know indeed how thou both knowest and wouldest help our need. For thou art wise and holy, and hast been behind the veil, and there the present seen. But we are weak and vain, with little care, beyond our yearly nests and daily fare. How should we reach the mountain, and if there, how get so great a prince to hear our prayer? For there, you say, dwells the Simurgh alone, in glory like Suleiman on his throne. And we but pismires at his feet. Can he, such puny creatures, swoop to hear or see? Our hearing seeing own us, unikin, as he to folly, woe, and death, and sin. To whom the Tajdar, whose voice for those bewildered ones to full compassion rose, O lost so long in exile, you disclaim, the very fount of being whence you came, cannot be parted from, and will, or no, whether for good or evil must reflow. For look the shadows, into which the light of his pure essence down by infinite graduation dwindles, at which random play through space in shape indefinite, one ray of his creative will into defined creation quickens, we that swim the wind, and they the flood below, and man and beast that walk between, from lion to the least, this mire that creeps along Suleiman's wall, yea, and that which they swim, fly, walk, and crawl. However near the fountain light, are far removed, yet his authentic shadows are dead matter's self, but the dark residue, exterminating glory dwindles too, a mystery too fearful in the crowd to utter, scarcely to thyself aloud, but when in solitary watch and prayer, considered and religiously beware, lest thou the copy with the type confound, and deity with deity endrowned, whereas pure water into purer wine, incorporating shall itself reline, while the dull drug lies half resolved below, with him and with his shadows. Is it so? The baser forms to whatsoever change, subject, still vary through their lower range, to which the higher even shall decay, that letting ooze their better part away. For things of sense and matter in the end shall merge into the clay to which they tend, unlike to him who's straining through the bond of outward being for a life beyond, while the gross wordling to his center clings, that draws him deeper in exalting springs, to merge him in the central soul of things. And shall not he pass home with other zest, who with full knowledge yearns for such a rest, than he who with his better self at strife drags on the weary exile called this life? One like a child, with outstretched arms and face upturned, anticipates his sire's embrace, the other crouching like a guilty slave, till flogged to punishment across the grave, and knowing that his glory ill can bear, the unpurged eye do thou thy breast prepare, and the mysterious mirror he set there, to temper his reflected image in, clear of distortion, doubleness, and sin. And in thy conscious understanding this, the double only seems, but the one is thyself, to self-annihilation give, that this false too in that true one may live. For this I say, if looking in thy heart, thou for self whole mistake thy shadow part, that shadow part indeed into the sun shall melt, but senseless of its union. But in that mirror, if with purged eyes thy shadow thou for shadow recognize, then shall thou back into thy center fall, a conscious ray of that eternal all. And of course, one of the important things that we should look at is that there's the teaching that's broad and reaches for everyone, and perhaps the ways of expressing the teachings, or people consider them different teachings, but the ways of expressing and understanding the teachings that perhaps aren't meant for the public. But the fact of the matter is that we need to, our beliefs and our actions need to not be, they need to be connected. They need to build our identification with something other than just creation imposing things and us contriving things.